please. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord Jesus, we thank you for gathering us here tonight in the City Hall building. We pray that you watch over our residents of our town. We pray that you especially watch over Councilman Hamer's wife, Nishan, as she's battling cancer. God, we know that you're the great physician, and that you can heal her. And we pray these things in your name. Amen. Yeah. Feel good.
Let's go on the roll call.
Everybody's mics on? Roll
Mr.
call, please.
Scholes.
Here.
Mr. Smolik.
Here.
Ms. Simons. Here. Mr. Ziegler.
Here.
Mr. Fenstermaker.
Here.
Mr. Hamer. Ms. Gracia.
Okay, on to the reading and approval of the minutes of the October 21st, 2024 work session. Looking for a motion.
Motion to adopt. Second.
Mr. Schultz and Mr. Fenstermaker. Any changes or discussion? Ms. Muscatella?
Mr. Scholes.
Yes.
Mr. Smolik.
Yes.
Ms. Simons.
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler.
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker.
Yes.
On to the minutes of the October 21st, 2024 council meeting. Looking for a motion.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Thank you. Any changes or discussions? Ms. Muscatella?
Mr. Schultz.
Yes.
Mr. Smolik.
Yes.
Ms. Simons.
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler.
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker.
Yes.
Minutes of the October 28th, 2024 special meeting. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Ziegler and Mr. Fenstermaker, thank you. Any changes or discussion? Ms. Muscatella?
Mr. Scholes.
Abstain.
Mr. Smolik.
Yes.
Ms. Simons.
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler.
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker.
Yes.
Okay, on to department reports. Chief Hutton.
Thank you, Mr. Smolik. The formal report was sent out last week. Our new cardiac monitors were delivered about a week ago. The guys will be training on those, and it's going to take a while. There's a lot to learn with those. Hopefully, we'll have them in service by the end of this year. Other than that, I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the chief?
Chief, any update on the fire truck?
Oh, you beat me to it.
I had to beat him to it.
Fire truck is still on schedule to be here a lot longer than Joe thinks it will. So probably by the end of 26, early 27.
I'm still on the record. You're going to get it 6 months earlier than you think, so. Thanks, Chief. Any other question for Chief Hutton? Thank you. Chief McAllister.
Thank you, Council President Smolik. Department reports were sent out, as we discussed in the work session, looking to make a preconditional offer to a gentleman tomorrow for one of our full-time positions that we're still looking to fill. In addition, Thanksgiving food drive is going on in the lobby. We're going to be collecting canned goods and other things through the 21st. We also have a bin over at Dollar General. If anybody wants to come in and put anything down there, all that stuff will go over to Divine Word. And then I just want to thank Julia, who's sitting over here with Teresa, and congratulate her on her movement over to the community center to be the new director here in December. She is uniquely qualified for the position, while Teresa is very difficult to replace. I think Julia's organizational and people skills will be an asset. Her general kindness and calm demeanor are really going to assist her well in that position. I just want to wish her luck in that new role, and I'm looking forward to working with her in the future. And that'll conclude my report. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Chief McAllister. Any question for Chief McAllister?
Chief, I still would like to get on the schedule on the dash cams. I just have to find that time, but I do plan on doing that.
Absolutely. Anytime you want, just give me a call. We'll make it work.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I want to make a note that I saw them and they're pretty cool. The software is awesome. I mean, just the ability to just pull up stuff right away. I mean, it looks like it's well worth the money spent.
No, it's money well spent. I guess the only issue that I'm seeing is the files are so large now because you have so many different camera views that I'm going to have to figure out a way to work with video sharing, especially with Matt and the M Drive, and because those files take up so much space, we're probably going to have to look to expand a little bit in the storage side of things. But if that's the only drawback to this, I'm willing to deal with that.
Thank you, Chief. I haven't been in any of those videos, have I, Chief, to this point? Okay, thank you.
Just the ones outside Tavern 6.
Thank you, Chief McAllister. And you did say the food drive was going through 11/21/24? 11/21 was for the food drive? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief McAllister. Mr. Fernaro.
Good evening, everyone. I'll be short. Couple public service announcements. Winter and snow and ice is right around the corner. Please get your tires checked out and your cars checked out. And leaves do not belong in the ditches. That's not where they go. So, and again, I'd like to thank our team for doing a great job, like they always do. We worked on, if anyone had a chance to get down to the rec park, we're putting up a batting cage for the high school. Eagle Scout project in Veterans Memorial. The bridge we talked about a little bit. They're telling me maybe around Thanksgiving. I think it might be a little bit sooner, but we have a progress meeting on next Tuesday. Booth Road is just about done. Where they're waiting on guardrails. There's a little issue with the water line. I'll let Doug talk about the streets. And plow markers will be going up this week. So please do not remove our plow stakes. And that completes my report.
Mr. Fernaro, the cage you're putting up, is it by the varsity field? Are you putting it up the proper way when it fall over?
That is correct. The school and the baseball league raised some money for that. It was a lot of concrete. The poles.
With that same cage?
It's a brand new cage.
You guys saw that.
They did. So the footers for the poles were 5 feet deep. So.
Any other questions for Mr. Fernaro?
Mr. Fernaro, just want to thank you for the sign placed on Monterey Drive. Residents really appreciative of it. Will Mr. Lallo be joining us this evening? Oh, okay. One of the comments that this resident had made that Monterey is used as a turnaround, not just for vehicles in the city. We're getting heavy vehicles turning around, plow trucks, garbage trucks that are servicing, they're servicing Geauga County, and that road probably is going to, it took a beating. I didn't know legally if we could restrict access or put a no turnaround sign as well. It's almost impossible to change driver behavior, right? But
We have
I hate to see that pavement.
We have talked to ODOT and asked them to use our turnaround, and they do try to pull in and back up, but that's, as you know, that's not really safe neither. So ODOT trucks do go down that street and turn around.
Yeah, and I think the other garbage trucks, yeah, it's really hit with a lot of heavy vehicles, so.
And that has been an issue since I've been on council too. I've heard that complaint too, Mr. Schultz.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Fernaro? And the over-under on people getting stuck with ball tires is usually at the bottom of the hill on by the church, right?
Before the holiday, probably 5.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fernaro. Mr. Courtney.
Thank you very much. No formal report tonight. I'll give you an update on the streets. Kelsey is finished. Monterey is finished. The Parkwood area is finished. Sean Thorne is in progress with surface asphalt, and the Forestdale area will be paved, should be paved by the end of the week if weather behaves. The only thing left to do on those streets then will be the berm work.
Thank you, Mr. Courtney. Any questions for Mr. Courtney?
Mr. Courtney, or for Mr. Fernaro as well, I just wanted to bring to your attention, you may get these emails, but there's the LPA days, December 3rd in Akron, and that's free to register for it and learn a little bit more about the local public agency program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Courtney? Thank you, Doug. Mr. Slapnecker.
Thank you, Council President Smolik. The October 2024 end-of-month reports were distributed to council today and will be posted on the website here shortly. We have one item of legislation on the agenda. It's for the local government services as part of our gap conversion. That can go 3 readings. Upcoming into the end of this month and into December as well, you're going to be seeing a few items of legislation, including the temporary budget for 2025 and then the final appropriations for 2024. I've also begun working on the budget for 2025, so we're a little ahead of schedule on that, and I'll update you accordingly as we get closer to 2025. That concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Louis. Any questions for Mr. Slapnecker?
Yeah, Louis, I don't know if this question, I assume it would go to you or maybe to Mr. Lallo, but with the closeout of the Lance Nossi case, could council get a roll-up of the legal fees that have accrued over the last?
Yeah, I can take care of that.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Slapnecker? Thank you, Louis. And Mr. Lallo is unable to join us tonight. Sorry. Ms. Zeri, Teresa, any reports for the Community Center, Senior Center?
Good evening, Council. I have a few thank yous. We've had a lot of events recently since we last met. Our trunk or treat, that was on the 23rd. Thank you for everyone who came. I know at the Community Center, we probably had over 150 kids in the first 45 minutes. So we had beautiful weather. It was definitely our most attended event yet. This is the 4th year we've done it. So thank you everyone who did that. Also, thank you to Mr. Finaro for his snow and ice presentation on the 28th, which was wonderful. And the seniors are still coming up with more questions for you. So, but certainly answered questions they didn't know they had. So that's much appreciated. Coming up, we have a few different events. Reminder that our service day is this Saturday, the 9th. If anyone is available to assist, we would appreciate it. We right now have 24 yards that we'll be cleaning up on Saturday morning. We have a good amount of volunteers, are always looking for more people with leaf blowers, rakes, and the ability to use them. We're meeting here at City Hall at 8 o'clock this Saturday morning, the 9th. And just a reminder again about the American Legion at 11 o'clock on the 11th for their Veterans Day ceremony. And the final thing I have, I think, coming up will be our annual interfaith prayer service will be on the 26th, Tuesday the 26th. Mr. Smolik, I believe you were referring to that a little bit earlier. We do this every year, have for probably over 20 years, so everyone is certainly invited to that. We have several of our area churches that will be participating. That will be at East Shore this year at 7 o'clock on the 26th. I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Any questions for Teresa? Much appreciated. And whoever helps out for the yard cleanup, make sure you bring yours because the backpack loaders are allowed. So thank you much, Teresa. Any other questions? On to Mayor Potter.
Thank you, Council President Smolik. I will be brief, I promise. So we all know that the issue 2, the road issue, did not pass yesterday. It lost about, what did we say, 55 to 45%, similar to last time, right, Joe?
Yeah, it was, 53 and a half, 46 and a half approximately.
So that makes 4 out of the last 5 road asks having been rejected by the voters.
Going back to 2013, correct? Is that
Yep. So, it's early in the process, obviously, let the idea of that rejection percolate and settle in. But obviously, we'll be working with the finance director and work as a group, to see what kind of money might be available for next year. Obviously, a road program of the kind of magnitude we've been used to in the last few years, as we've paved, I think, around 12 miles of road in the last 4 or 5 years. I can promise you that won't, without a dedicated source of funding, it's highly unlikely that kind of road work will get done over the course of the next few years. But as leaders in this community, we have an obligation to continue to try to, find resources and ways to keep our roads safe and keep our residents' neighborhoods and property values up to where the standard that we think that they should be and what our residents deserve. So I do want to thank all of the residents, whether you voted yes or no, for coming out yesterday. Kirtland always has high participation in our elections. Yesterday was no exception. So thank everybody for weighing in. And really, that's all I was planning to talk about tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. And per the mayor's point, every year the city does have to, during budget process, come up with a 10-year road plan and a method of financing. And every year, generally, council, whether we borrow money or this year we put it on a levy in 2 years ago, and everybody on council unanimously voted to put that forward to the residents to allow them to decide on that. And that's a process we go through every year. So come back in March and we'll have to be going over that again next year in 2025. Correct, Mayor? Thank you. Any questions for Mayor Potter?
No questions for the mayor, but just to circle back to Lewis for a minute. I know we're working on 2025 budgets and things like that already, which is great. And I may have asked for this once before, and you may have already supplied it, but I can't find it. So I'm going to ask again. Can I get a summary of the capital spending in the past 5 years? Okay. I think I have asked for this, haven't I?
Yeah, I'll have it for you. I can get it to you tomorrow.
I knew that.
It's okay. I think I even went back maybe even further than 5 years
I think
because we
you
had
did, too.
the data accessible. So I'll get it for you again. No problem.
Please. I remembered that I didn't remember. I just knew I asked for it. I couldn't find it. All right. Yeah, I just want to look through that and make sure that, as questions arise, where money's being spent and what we have done, I want to be able to have that available that says this is where we know we have a capital challenge also, right? So when residents are asking where we're spending the money and why we don't have money for roads, we still have a capital deficit that we're trying to work out of also, that I think is not hitting the residents from the standpoint of understanding we have capital needs also, not just road needs. So I think it's good if we could put that together and show them, here's what's been spent in the past 5 years on capital. Here's where our deficits still are, where we're not spending. And you're talking 3 years for a fire truck. We're trying to stretch that because we just don't want to be in a position of having to spend $1 million, right? So I just think it'd be a good piece for the residents to be able to see that.
You got it.
Thank you.
Mayor, could you give a update if there is one on Ohio gig efforts?
Sure. So Mr. Gibbs with Farisight, I think, had reached out to them. There was some correspondence earlier today. I think they were going to be getting back to him. I think they said by the end of the week. I don't know exactly when they plan to bring a contract for us to review in terms of some of the negotiations we've had, so to speak. So I'm hoping before the end of this year that we'll have something before council.
Okay. I'd probably like to have a talk with Mr. Finaro and Mr. Lallo, just to, with my role at my day job, we permit utilities in our right of way and try to understand how the city would do that, or if they would do that. And it pertains relative to the relocation of those utilities. If there's like a roadway project, if they're permitted, they have to move on their own volition. If they're granted an easement, you're paying for their relocation. So, I'm sure Mr. Courtney and Mr. Finaro are aware of that, but that side of it, I think, needs to come into the thought in that contract. So we're not stuck with any undue burdens, especially if it's an underground facility. It gets very expensive. It's aerial. It could be expensive if there's a delay, but from my role and my day job, I think it would be best to dot the i's and cross the t's.
Thank you.
Any other questions from Mayor? Oh,
Yep,
go
one
ahead.
more. I believe a meeting or two ago, you said we were going to see Eddie Eckert.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be tonight, but it should be the next Monday.
Okay.
Not next Monday. Our next council Monday.
November 18th. Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Schultz. Any other questions for Mayor Potter? And appreciate Mr. Fenstermaker asking on the where money gets spent on that. Obviously, Louis Slapmaker and the administration's done an outstanding job. And by way of just the very little financing we do on all this stuff. Fire truck, I don't know if a lot of people are aware that fire trucks, plow trucks, all that kind of stuff, police, where when I started 8 years ago, a lot of that stuff got financed. The stuff is all paid for. We're not taking the kind of debt we used to initially when I was on, at least started 8 years ago, but look forward to seeing that report, though. Any other questions for Mayor Potter? Thank you. On to standing committee reports. Any standing committee reports right now? What were we looking at before? Ms. Simmons, you wanted to recreation? Or we'll get out, you're gonna, but Mr. Hamer wanted to get one together? Okay. Okay, well, we'll forward that once we get that established with Mr. Hamer. And then also a utilities commission meeting we're gonna try to set up for either the 7th or the 21st, not on the 14th. 7th? Let's tentatively, we'll put it on the schedule for the 7th right now, Mr. Panaro. Okay, very good. Ms. Muscatello, December 7th.
Whoa. Thank you, Coach. That's the day of the potential state championship game.
Oh. Correct, okay.
Have a hold a meeting.
21st on, or?
No, let's push it into January then, after the new year.
Yeah, 21st, a little too close to the holidays?
That's too close to the holidays.
Okay, we'll follow up with an email if we could do that earlier and put that up publicly, obviously, so.
Councilman Ziegler, thank you. Good save.
I think we did that before we scheduled on that day. Thank you, Mr. Ziegler. On to there was any no correspondence, I believe, Ms. Muscatello?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any public comments on matters not on the agenda tonight? Please step forward, state your name. How are you? Good to see you, Kathy. Just give it a little tap. Is it on? Like you got it.
You're welcome. So, we're back. There was a meeting in September.
Name and address for the record, please.
Pardon? Oh, yeah, Kathleen Mack, 7771 Gildersleeve Drive, Kirtland, Ohio. There was a meeting in September where our family's name was somewhat dragged through the mud, and we're here to respond to that because if it was your family, I think you'd do the same thing, and we feel like there should be some context around the accusations that were thrown our way. So I'll just head right into it. We're here to address the false statements made to us at the September 16th, 2024 council meeting by the superintendent's family and to provide the truth. And just so that we're all on the same page here, I wanted to define the words slander. That is, there's four parts to it. It's a statement reported as fact to another person. The statement was false. It caused damage to the person that they were referencing. And the person making the statement was negligent in making that statement. So, a little bit of background. As Reese noted in his statement at the September 16, 2024 council meeting, he was told he had to move A+ Landscaping from the location of its parents' house because the area was zoned residential. He landed at Richards Maples location. Being good neighbors, which was completely overlooked, we put up with their placement there for a while. But over the months, we let Fred know that their presence was a growing nuisance due to the sound, the debris, and the lights, among numerous other issues. Fred assured us in an email that he would that he would ask A+ to keep it down. Unfortunately, though, it did not get better and it progressively continued to get worse. We had started reaching out to the city at that point, having read the zoning ordinances cover to cover, which I think you guys know, and realizing that our rights as property owners were being disregarded, as was our ability for quiet enjoyment of our home. So for the sake of brevity, which is not my strong point, we will address the 5 most egregious false statements made by the superintendent's family. At the September 16th council meeting, Mrs. Van Arnhem continually stated that only we wanted A+ Landscaping to move out of Richards Maples parking lot. She falsely stated that 18 minutes and 24 seconds into the meeting that, quote, if Reese were no longer on the property, a fence would no longer have to be put up, making it 100% personal about Reese. Fred Ahrens, on numerous occasions, both verbally and in writing, said that A+ Landscaping was going to be there temporarily for a short period of time. Fred reiterated this information in a statement at the October 9th, 2023 Planning and Zoning meeting, when he said, and these are notes from the meeting, Mr. Ahern said that A+ Landscaping is there temporarily. As soon as he finds another property, he will be gone. Mr. Ahern noted that there is no money being exchanged. He is mowing the grass for them. Unlike the statements that Mrs. Van Arnhem made, this is not personal about Reese. We've made that clear. We've told everybody. This is about the nuisance of a landscaping and contractor business operating out of a limited industrial residential property, no matter whose business it is. Mrs. Van Arnhem failed to mention the fact that Fred Ahern wanted A+ Landscaping off his property as well. At the October 9th, 2023 Planning and Zoning meeting, Fred said the following, and I quote, and I actually have it on audio if anybody wanted to hear it. I am excited for them to move out when they do because I already have equipment in there occupying more than half the building with stuff that I'm really reselling for maple production, and I would like to have the whole building back at some point. So clearly not us. At that same Planning and Zoning meeting, as reflected in the notes, quote, upon discussion with the applicant, which was Fred, and the neighboring property owner, it was agreed that an 8-foot fence would be required if A+ Landscaping or any other subletter is still there after December 31st, 2023. At that same meeting, as reflected in the notes, a commission member commented that, quote, he feels that something is wrong in the code that allows a situation where a new company comes in, and while in the process of completing city-required paperwork, a third business ends up on the property that is bothering people. He said he has an issue with this being able to happen. In an email dated January 10th, 2024 from Fred to Denise, Fred stated at that time, quote, I've talked to Reese. Supposedly he and Rick, the old zoning inspector, are trying to get moved to a location across from Tavern 6. Reese is waiting on approval to make the move. Is this not true? So Mrs. Van Arnhem's statement about this being personal and solely motivated by us are wrong, although she presented these statements as fact publicly. False statement number 2. At 15:45 into the meeting, and referencing the property at A+ Landscaping, that A+ Landscaping is occupying, Mrs. Van Arnhem stated that the fence that was installed, quote, is on the same property that when the neighbors purchased their home next to was and still remains on commercial industrial zone property. The fact is, the property is zoned limited industrial and residential. Under section 126109AA in our city ordinances, business operating in limited industrial must be, quote, relatively clean, quiet and free of objectionable or hazardous elements such as smoke, noise, odor, or dust, operating and storing within enclosed structures. Those trucks aren't in enclosed structures, and generating little industrial traffic and no nuisances. By way of background, we lived next to a manufacturing business that ran multiple shifts for numerous years, over a decade, maybe 2, and never had a single complaint that we filed. Her statements about the zoning classification, wrong, and related use of the property are wrong, although she presented her statements as facts. False statement number 3. At 15:58 into the September 16th, 2024 meeting, she stated that, quote, threats, slander, harassment, lies, intimidation tactics, and amount of time spent on where my son works, his job sites, pictures of his equipment and vehicles being taken unknowingly to him, along with questioning his credentials, his insurance information, the defamation, and everything else that has been done to intimidate and impede a 21-year-old young man from simply trying to work and run a legitimate tax-paying landscaping business in Kirtland for the last 2 years is beyond alarming behavior. These are excruciatingly false and very, very serious allegations. So let's get that on record. She said that we were taking pictures unknowingly to him. This is false. Almost all the pictures that were used in the communication with the city were pulled directly off A+ Landscaping's website, their Facebook page, including his machinery and job sites, and please compare them for yourselves. She states that our request for his credentials was in an effort to intimidate and defame her son. Under Section 80201, all businesses working in Kirtland are required to register as a business. At 17:04 into the meeting, Mrs. Van Arnhem said A+ Landscaping has been working in the city, quote, for over 7 years. Despite all this time working in the city, A+ Landscaping did not register as a business in the city until July 31st, 2023. That's 5 years without a business license. One of the most important aspects of registering as a business in the city is to notify the fire department of any hazardous chemicals on site in the event of a fire, which is referenced as the emergency business information on the form. Given the nature of A+ Landscaping's business, there is gasoline and other chemicals on site. These are located yards from our property. Not registering was not only breaking the ordinances, but poses a potential danger to the city firefighters and to us, given our proximity to these chemicals. In addition, as 200+ days elapsed between the planning and zoning meeting and the deadline to erect the fence, it became obvious to us that A+ Landscaping was erecting the fence. In order to erect a fence, a contractor's license from Lake County Building Department is needed per Section 146001B1C. Along with the contractor's license under 146005, insurance and a bond are required of all registered contractors in the city. These requirements are posted on the homepage of Kirtland's Planning and Zoning website. We ask you, if a fence is being erected that is supposed to stop light and sound and all the other egregious impositions on our property and home, don't we have every right to ensure that the company doing the work is properly credentialed and that the work is done compliantly? We would ask this of any contractor. That said, Reese did not obtain his contractor's permit from Lake County Building Department until August 15th, 2024. At this time, the fence was largely installed and almost complete. This lack of credentials truly causes us concern. So we ask council tonight, if this fence fails and it needs to be replaced, will it be replaced by a compliant board-on-board privacy fence? Truth be told, we can actually see through that material already, the screening that was put up there. So I understand you probably would have deferred to Matt, but something to keep in mind, like what happens? We would like an answer or a plan on what would happen if that fence fails.
Are you saying lights already coming through?
Oh, yeah.
It's already.
Lights, sound, everything, yeah, absolutely.
Already...
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Also, too, we were at a loss as to why Reese's mom kept bringing up his age. If you are old enough to run a business and run for 7 years, then aren't you old enough to comply with the ordinances and the laws surrounding the business that you're running? I don't know. That was kind of lost on me. Her statements about our request for credentials as targeting and intimidating are incorrect, although she presented her statements as facts. False statement number 4. At 15:13 into the meeting, Mrs. Van Arnhem states, "This is the only 8-foot fence that has been ordered to be put up on commercial industrial zone property in the city of Kirtland in at least 5 years," unquote. And quote, "This fence is also the fence that my son himself had to auger through layers of asphalt that was once a parking lot for semis." At 17:48 into the meeting, the superintendent's wife also noted that we should be responsible for erecting the fence. For the record, we did not propose the fence. At the September 11th, 2023 Planning and Zoning meeting, Mr. Dank suggested the fence. According to the meeting notes.
Just so that I kind of take Mr. Dank off the hook here, I was in that work session meeting prior to that PAZ meeting.
Yeah.
And I suggested they propose that.
Oh, okay, and no, it is, I thought, it was a great resolution, and what I'm saying is, we didn't walk in there and said, we want an 8-foot fence.
Understood, but
He
I also
came to the meeting, okay.
Understood, but I also want it known that I proposed that option to PZ&A. Now, if they chose not to propose that option, that was up to
Agreed.
them, but I did in the working session with them.
And we completely appreciated that extra effort. But he said that, per Mr. Dank, another suggestion would be a board-on-board fence. He noted that the ordinance allows the commission to permit an 8-foot fence, which is not typically allowed. Mr. V, I can't say his name, suggested that it be placed close to the activity in the auxiliary building, which A Plus operates out of. Mr. DeMarco noted that it would help contain the lights from vehicles. There was discussion regarding the best location for a fence. Mr. Ahern noted it would be another expense for them, but it could be done. An 8-foot solid fence was suggested. Where am I? Sorry. Okay. At the October 9th, 2023 meeting, a commission member noted that the fence was about vehicle lights in the mornings. Another member asked about the fence being needed because of vehicle noise, and further noted that when snow plowing begins, the trucks will be going out all hours of the day and night, which happens. He said that there seems to be a sound issue that the right kind of fence would help address. This fence does not. Of note, A Plus Landscaping's website states they are, quote, open 24 hours each day of the week. At the council meeting at 25 minutes and 58 seconds, Reese reiterates the exact issues which we detailed and that Planning and Zoning pointed out when he said that he has to, quote, plow the parking lot during early morning hours, and that we are seeing and smelling the, quote, dust and odor using the lawnmower and gasoline. Again, as a reminder, this is a direct violation of limited industrial, which Reese admitted in his own words that he was doing. Mrs. Van Arnam's statement about us being responsible putting up the fence is incorrect, although she passed it off as fact. False statement number 5. Mrs. Van Arnam said at 16:55 in the meeting that the quote, false accusations of preferred treatment are, quote, also preposterous and insulting. Okay, here's the facts. The owner of A Plus Landscaping is the superintendent of Curtin City Schools' son, Reese. The superintendent's son said himself at 22:50 in that September meeting that the city zoning inspector at the time, quote, helped me with finding the location at Richards Maple. As referenced earlier, according to Fred Ahrens, A Plus Landscaping is not paying any rent. They mow the lawn. Further, the arrangement made for A Plus Landscaping is unprecedented in Kirtland zoning history, so much so that commission members have voiced concern over the matter, as previously stated and captured in the zoning meeting minutes. Most concerning was that at 15:50 into that council meeting, Mrs. Van Arnam specifically stated that Reese has worked with council and, quote, has recommended your business to clients as well who were in need of your professional services. Standing back and listening to that information, it sounds like a quid pro quo arrangement, unless we misunderstood it.
Who stated that?
No, I'm just saying, like, listening to that fact pattern, it sounds like a quid pro quo, like unprecedented. Mrs. Van Arnam said that. It was, quote, he has recommended your business to clients as well who were in need of your professional services.
Council.
Yes.
Has anyone on council recommended him to anybody? No.
Okay. Good.
Council said nothing.
Okay, good, because that's why I put in here. I'm like,
False statement.
pardon me?
False statement.
Okay, good to know. Proving my point. Another false statement. Ultimately, while the reasons behind Mrs. Van Arnam's and Reese Van Arnam's appearance at the September 16, 2024 council meeting are unclear, as the appropriate time to address the issues they raised with the correct jurisdictional bodies was in fall of 2023, the one area their appearance did bear impact was the slander of our good name, as we have set out. In addition, at 26:18, Reese said our behavior had progressed into harassment, quote. As you all know, we have taken up our issues with the proper governmental bodies and are dumbfounded as to how that conclusion was drawn. At 19:15, Mrs. Van Arnam said we were, quote, ugly out of control. At 16:45, Mrs. Van Arnam said we had a, quote, targeted obsession. At 20:25, Mrs. Van Arnam said we were on a, quote, obsessed mission and said we were displaying, quote, reprehensible, quote, ugly behavior. At 21:25, Mrs. Van Arnam said we were telling, quote, lies that are not true. At 20:48, Mrs. Van Arnam stated that she will inform you where the, quote, true ugliness lies. It's in the behavior. Well, we are not the ones that have taken this to the court of public opinion. We are not the ones that posted defamatory statements on Facebook about our family that the school board was made aware of and the superintendent was forced to remove. I have copies if you'd like to see it in my folder. Please keep in mind, this is coming from the superintendent's wife, and we have a daughter in the school system. Thankfully, members of the school board apologized to us and expressed their disappointment. Again, these public verbal false statements of fact conveyed by Mrs. Van Arnhem and Reese Van Arnhem at the September 16, 2024 council meeting and the subsequent damage to our reputation is inexcusable. We want this council to know the impact of their actions upon us as Kirtland citizens. Lastly, let us lay something out that is being glaringly overlooked. Quite simply, the Planning and Zoning Commission recognized the nuisances caused by A-Place landscaping. Mrs. Van Arnhem recognized the fact that there have not been any other 8-foot fences, correctly recognized that fact, in Kirtland for over 5 years. We asked this question, where is it lost on everyone that an 8-foot fence was decided upon because the disruption to our lives and to our home and to our property is truly that egregious of an offense that it elicits an 8-foot fence. And truth be told, it's still not good enough. Unprecedented for the last 5 years, per Mrs. Van Arnhem? Yes, it was. And now you know why. It's egregious. We just felt we wanted to get that on the record. We did not appreciate the way that they came after us. We were wondering if you guys had any questions. We also wanted to know if obviously we've identified where ordinances were broken. There are still ordinances that are being broken that aren't being addressed. Happy to sit down with you guys, but happy to take a different approach. So,
have you guys looked into like settling this with civil courts? I mean, I feel like this is something that needs to be resolved that way. You have two sides and you need someone to mediate it.
Correct.
We're council, we really can only do
And that's why I'm coming here, I'm clearing up our family name, I'm straightening out the lies that were told about us. And I'm saying, if you guys want to sit down and go over the ordinances that are still being broken and look at that point, fine. Otherwise, we'll go a different way.
Council has no ability to enforce. We don't have any ability to enforce laws we produce, but we can't go out and give tickets or cite people.
You can enforce your ordinances.
No, that would be police or that would be the police department or the zoning inspector. We cannot, as council people, go out and enforce a law. Correct, Chief?
Yeah, as counsel, you can't. If you have concerns, I'd be more than happy to come in and sit down with you. I can document those things that you're seeing, and then I can also make a report on that and forward it over to our zoning so we can follow up.
That's wonderful. We have done that, and like it's kind of picked and chosen what was being addressed and what was not, or like, oh, we'll look at this but not this. And again, it's pretty straightforward to us. I'm more than happy to have another conversation because, again, we've tried this from day one being amicable. We've, reached out. The fact that we let it go on for a long time before we were like, enough is enough. But yeah, there's ones that are currently still outstanding, but we have. I actually didn't, but I take my word for it. I have them listed up. Sure. Okay. Did you want to sit down and talk about them, or do you want? Okay. Absolutely. Yes, that would be great.
Okay. And if you'd like to, if you had a written statement, you could do that, Ms. Muscatella, if you make it easier for them to type in the records later on too. If you had a written, you were reading Perot right off that paper, you could hand her a copy if you'd like.
No, I'm good.
Okay, but pertaining to council generally, I've taken many complaints and I forward them to the proper people, whether it's the zoning inspector, police, fire, but we have no authority to sit there and write a ticket and tell you got to do this. We pass it.
Yeah, correct. But again, we kind of felt like we exhausted all our other possibilities with planning and zoning and all the other places. But if
Appreciate
we're
you
going to
coming.
circle back around, that would be wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Would
evening.
you like a copy of that attached to the minutes? A copy of what you read?
No.
I'm
I just figure for translation later on if she wrote
know.
right off a paper, so.
I think she's, you go back and watch, I think she was talking to them.
She did freehand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments on agenda items not, public comments on matters not on the agenda tonight? None at this time? Okay, on to old business. At this time, we have no old business, so there are no public comments on agenda items of old business. On to new business. Any public comments on agenda items of new business? None at this time? Okay, we're on to 24-R-77, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with local government services from the Ohio Auditor of State's Office to provide assistance in the preparation of basic financial statements for the city and declaring an emergency. This is the first reading. We could go to 3 readings on this one. Mr. Slepnick, if you want to go ahead and just give an explanation of what the resolution entails.
So this is just a contract in order to engage with local government services, and the service they provide is to convert our cash basis accounting data to a modified accrual and a full accrual basis, which is a requirement for the Auditor of State to audit our financials. So again, this is just a contract to enter into with local government services to provide that service for us.
Thank you, Louis. And go ahead, sorry.
Louis, I mentioned in the work session if it was worth amending it, because in section 1 it says 16,000, then farther on in the contract it says not to exceed 16,200. You know, is it necessary to make that amendment?
Yeah, I think we should amend that. Yes.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, well, I guess I would like to
Start that in the first line, 16.2, and then gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you adjust that from 16,000 to 16.2 or adjust the 16.2 to 16,000?
It's where's it at? It's on the last page, page 6 and 7.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. So it is $16,200 not to exceed. So it should go from in the legislation at 16,000 to 16,200.
Okay, we'll do the amendment on that the next reading then, and then, okay, or do that right? Okay.
I'd
Very good.
like to make a motion to amend section 1 to change the dollars not to exceed $16,000 to $16,200 based on the estimated 270 hours at a rate of $60 per hour. So we're changing that number to 16,200.
A second for Mr. Councilman Schultz. Ms. Simmons with a second. Any questions? Any other changes? Ms. Muscatello?
Mr. Schultz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes.
Ms. Simons,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler,
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go on to the second reading then. Okay, any other discussion on 24-R-77? On to council comments. Any council comments at this point?
Yeah, Councilman Fenstermaker, appreciate you asking that question on my behalf for the special meeting. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Also, just wanted to publicly recognize Kirtland's former council president, Jeff Rupel, and congratulate him on his election to the Lake County Common Pleas judgeship, and also Kirtland's Jerry Serino for being reelected to state rep, representing the 18th district of the state of Ohio.
Very good, Mr. Schultz. Thank you. Any other council comments? Not at this point. Any continuing concerns? Not at this time. Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Who was first, motion? Second?
Okay.
Motion, Matt, second.